I finally figured it out. There are two different Braxton families. There's Hollywood, and then there's Maryland. And Traci is in the Maryland family. And that is my professional opinion. Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Joy from She Speaks Too. Today we're going to be reviewing Braxton Family Values Season 7, Episode 3. So this episode starts with Traci falling over her own pantsuit. She said she is not drunk. I think she hits a tree or a Christmas tree or something. She falls down, and then you see that she starts thinking too much. She starts talking to Miss Wanda at the table. You know, everyone's gonna think she's drunk and she doesn't want to hear their mouth. That lets you know that Traci is in her head and she makes up a lot of scenarios before they even happen. She has up some like pent up animosity for the way she has been treated over the years, and it's kind of sad because her feelings may be very valid, but at a certain point you just want to tell her, Traci, it's time to move on. It's time to move on, girl. So then we cut to the scene where Miss Judge Maybelline Ephraim, who I love Judge Maybelline, is doing the vows, and she did like a, how do I do this? Like a remix, like a DJ on the vows. Her vows were like, you promise to never go to bed angry, you promise to listen and communicate. I mean, she just added all kind of stuff on those people's vows. And then she said, and you guys have been down this road before, and I never ever want to see y'all back here again. And then Trina reveals that this is her 4th wedding, because she married the boy's father. She married Gabe twice, and then she married, and now she's marrying Vaughn, and this will be Vaughn's 5th wedding. So they don't need to do this again. And she was saying how happy and excited she was that her father was walking her down the aisle, because of course her wedding to Gabe, her father did not walk her down the aisle because Miss Wanda was not invited, and he decided to respect his wife, which he should have, and decided not to come to the wedding if his wife was not invited. He had long been married to Miss Wanda. By now they should have, it's not choosing a side, it's just doing the right thing. Your father can come with his wife. There should be forgiveness. So now that the vows are over, Sean, who is Tawanda's boyfriend, walks over to the table that Mr. Braxton and Miss Wanda and Traci are sitting at. So that's the Maryland table. So we have Olivia, we have Traci's son, little Kevin or Kevin Jr., we have Miss Wanda, we have Traci. So they're at that table. Sean walks up and Traci starts talking about Sean to Miss Wanda. She's like, she can't stand him, and you know, she uses some curse words or whatever. And in her confessional, she said that Sean needs to stay in his place. He's always in the sister's business. Something ain't clean in the milk. I totally agree with Traci. I think that at the wedding is not the time to express that. I feel like her emotions are too much on her fingertips. She expresses her anger every chance she gets, and when she does express it, it's inappropriate, it's at the wrong time. I think her feelings are valid, just not at the right time. So I do think Sean is thirsty. I think Sean is leeching onto the Braxton name. I think that he likes to be in the spotlight. I think he probably would want more airtime. But I do think that of Tawanda also, I think Tawanda does the most. She's always on Facebook. I mean, she's always on live. She's always spilling the backstory behind the sisters' arguments, and then she's always saying that she's clearing it up or telling her truth. And so I do think that they kind of match, because she does the most with the Braxton name also. So they're probably a perfect pair. I don't think Tawanda is a rude or disrespectful sister, but I think she is the messy sister. I think she stirs the pot. I think she throws the stones and hides her hands. I think she does that a lot. So Mr. Braxton goes to serenade Trina with this horrible rendition of Unforgettable. Traci gets up there, and he apparently he hands her the mic, and she tries to help him, which she does a really good job. And then the sisters are kind of giggling because it's a funny moment. It's a funny moment. Your dad can't sing. You guys all know that. You think you get your singing voice from your mother, so you're wondering why he's singing. You have the right to giggle, but because Traci is so sensitive, and the inferiority complex that she has taken for so many years, everything makes her feel small. So even their giggling makes her feel like a fool. Like she internalizes that. It's not just, oh, my sisters are laughing because it's a funny moment. It's like they're laughing at me. And so Traci sits down. Apparently Olivia tells her that the sisters were laughing at her. Now, we never saw that happen, but if that is true, Olivia is wrong, because Olivia is Traci's daughter-in-law, and she's very aware of how Traci has felt over the years. So there would be, that's like adding gasoline to the flame, to the fire. So you're very aware that Traci has felt this way over the years. So by you telling her that, there's no good that can come of that. So Traci is upset. She has to excuse herself. So I just wish that Traci's feelings are very valid, but she always expresses it in an unhealthy way, in a violent explosion way. So I just wish she would find a better way to discuss this. So, but anyway, she gets mad, she walks away, and Tony is asking, like, Traci's husband, like, why is she mad at us? And he says, you know what, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about her. So Traci goes up, she separates herself, she goes into Trina's little dressing room. So apparently the sisters follow Traci, and we hear her telling someone, you've never cared about me, you don't love me. And I actually think she was talking to Miss Braxton, her mother, but they never show us. They don't explain it. Everyone just has skirted around what this altercation was about. So we don't know who she was talking to. She was either talking to the sisters. And I remember in Tamar, Get Your Life, Tamar said that at Trina's wedding, she went to sit by Traci, and Traci squeezed her hand. That didn't make sense. And Traci was squeezing her hand so hard. That didn't make sense. You just go sit by your sister and she starts squeezing your hand. So I didn't believe that. So this little back part that we get at the wedding shows that Traci was visibly upset, went to sit there, and Tamar probably went there and was like, what's wrong? Did we do something? And so that's what the altercation, how it started. And then I think she was talking to Miss Braxton when she was saying, you've never loved me, you don't care about me, something like that. Tawana and Trina are talking about the wedding, and Tawana once again says Olivia's name, says Olivia was the one. Olivia should get paid for as many times as her name was mentioned in this episode. So Tawana says that Olivia was the one that told Traci that the sisters were laughing. And so Trina says that Traci has always been sensitive about her talent, her craft, and so that the laughter was seen as maybe them laughing at her instead of just laughing at the situation. So she says she's always been sensitive, but I wonder why she would always be sensitive, because she's probably felt always different, and I don't know why. She's all probably from, I know older why, because she took her dad's side during the divorce, or maybe not took her dad's side but didn't cut him off like the rest of the sisters for a while. But I don't know why it would have started so young. Why is she so different from all the other sisters? And so Mr. Braxton and Mikey get together, like maybe in a little coffee shop, and this is the most loving intervention I've ever seen in the Braxton family values. Every time the sisters get together to kind of express their feelings, it is horrible. Nothing is achieved. And even when they went on Iyanla Fix My Life, that was bad. Nothing was achieved. Nothing happened. There was no transformation. But this was so loving. Mikey, Mr. Braxton sat with Traci, and they said, we're worried about you. We're worried about how you keep your feelings inside, how you choose to communicate it, your anger. And Mikey said, you and I would talk twice a week, and we don't even talk no more. And then Traci revealed that it's hard to talk to her brother because she's still grieving the loss of her niece Lauren, which is so sad to think that he lost a child. I think she was about 24 years old, because he said later that he had her for 25 years, almost 25 years, and he's thankful for that. And Traci apparently thinks of Lauren as her daughter, and she said that this was the closest female relationship that she ever had. And she just, the grief, you can feel the grief when she was in a therapy session. Like, that really broke my heart. But she said it's even hard to talk to her brother. And I think she was saying that the grief has even made her feelings toward her sisters more explosive, because it's just the grief is just on her heart. So she thinks about her niece. She was even thinking about her niece at the wedding, the fact that she wasn't there, was a family function. What I do have to say about Traci is, it seems like out of all of the sisters, she's the most relatable as it comes to family. When Tony was talking to her brother in the Zoom later on in the episode, and she was like, what happened? Why was Traci so mad? And she said, is it the Lauren thing? And you're talking to this man who's lost his child, and you're saying, is it the Lauren thing? Like, kind of, she just needs to get over it. And no, you're talking about the death of this man's child, and you're like, is it just that Lauren thing that's making her act like this? And I thought that was not good. I didn't think that was good. But I like Mikey. I'm calling him Mikey like I know him, but I like Mikey. He takes it in stride, and he doesn't pick a side. He's very neutral. He's very grounded, very calm, not messy at all. So he's a good example of a brother, and I think he may be is he the oldest? But he's a good example because he doesn't pick sides. I think he's good for Traci to be in Traci's life. So anyway, Mr. Braxton and Mikey suggest that she get counseling, and they just did it in such a loving way that Traci agreed. There was no accusations, and she came in thinking that everyone's gonna make this her fault. But they didn't do that at all. They just love her and they care about her. And then Mr. Braxton revealed something that was so good. He said that when he was going through his divorce, which he caused because he cheated, so I guess in order to support their mother, the sisters, of course, took her side. And he said Traci was the only one that said, Daddy, I don't care what you do. I love you. I'll be there for you. And I think that decision was easier for Traci to make because the record deal that had fallen through and feeling abandoned by her sisters to begin with, and her mom probably always maybe feeling alienated from her mom, not feeling like a true sister. So it was easier to stick to the person that showed you the most love, which was her father, and to say, I'm always going to be there for you. And so I think that caused even more division when she kind of made that decision to not be out of her father's life, and the fact that she stayed in Maryland and they're all like Hollywood. So he revealed that, and then he says at the end, you know, I love you and I love you the most, you know, jokingly, but I think there's a little truth behind it. And I think that is why Traci once again is treated differently. There's a little fluff scene with Tamar visiting Tony on set and talking about the coronavirus, and she brought her spray. It was just a little, maybe comedic relief, but there wasn't much to that scene. Traci is in counseling with like the calmest counselor ever. This lady, I need a counselor that's gonna hold me and rock me like Iyanla and hold me at her bosom and tell me to let my heart break. But anyway, Traci's at this counseling session, and she starts talking about her grief, and her grief is so, gosh, it's so real. It's so powerful because you can almost feel what she's feeling. It hurts her to the core, where she, you know, when you take that deep breath, and she says, she said, I'm afraid of the reality that I will never see her again. And that is hard. That is the grief. If you're a Christian, you know that you will see them again, but not on this earth. And so that is the grief that Traci is feeling. And then she talks about how she's always felt different or disrespected from her sisters. The counselor asked her, like, have you ever told them? And she said, yes. Nothing happens. And so they flash back to scenes. I remember the first counseling session, one of the first counseling sessions the sisters went to before their issues became so huge. They went around the room and they were saying, what does everyone want from each other? And Tony said the dumbest, most superficial thing. She said, I want Traci to lose about 20 to 40 pounds. And that has nothing. So that's once again making this woman feel less than. Who are you to tell her? It's one thing to say, Traci, I want you to work on your self-esteem. Oops, my book fell. I think you're beautiful. I think this and this. I want you to, I just want more self-esteem. But how do you look at another person and say, I want you to lose about 20 to 40 pounds? And then they show different scenes of them basically disrespecting Traci, talking about her marriage, the fact that her husband cheated on her, might have had a baby, just things that should not have been discussed. They have more respect for that. Apparently, what they said was Vince was abusive to Tamar after the fact, and if they all knew that, they never discussed it on the show. They don't discuss Tony's bankruptcy, but they talk about Traci and the happenings of her life very comfortably. So I understand her frustration. She feels disrespected. So they cut to that, and then, you know, Traci breaks down. She needs a break. She goes in the bathroom. So Then one of the last scenes, they talk about everyone's giving their point of view regarding Tamar's suicide attempt. They don't give much details. Everyone, maybe out of respect for Tamar, everyone's talking about how they got the news and how it made them feel. Of course, Miss Evelyn being the mother, she was devastated. She said she got on the first thing smoking, probably within hours. And Tony talked about how she felt. She tried to see Tamar, but they wouldn't let her see her. And then the other sisters, Tawanda, Trina, Traci. You can tell Traci, from what I could gather, I don't think Traci made contact with Tamar. She just said, you know, that's devastating. I wish I could be there with her. But she doesn't talk about, you know, I called my sister and I heard her voice. So we don't get a lot of that. So they talk about Tamar's her attempt, and then Tony says something that she said that she can only talk about how she feels, and the rest is up to Tamar. And Trina echoed the same thing. She said this is Tamar's journey, so she's not going to talk about, that's for Tamar to speak on. She can only talk about how she feels. So that is my review. This is Joy from She Speaks Too. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you later for Braxton Family Values. Thank you.